Clock.
Feel your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand. Fear's not allowed, where dreams can be lost or found. As you look out through the window.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I'm Rosemary Lachance, a Reiki energy healer and a spiritual advisor.
And I'm Jayne Power, author, angel channeler, and owner of an organic hair salon.
And we are dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. We ask you to embrace the show with an open mind. We will give you the contact information at the end of the show. Please enjoy the show. And if you have any show ideas of people we could have on here, we'd be glad to hear. So just email us. Thank you. Okay.
Alrighty. So here we are, show number 90. And our guest tonight is Martha Hoffman. Hey, Martha, how you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to see you. Okay, Martha is the founder of a grassroots nonprofit based in Madison, Connecticut, called To Uganda. Since its 2007 inception, the organization has grown to include dozens of like-minded humanitarians concerned with making a difference in the lives of others, particularly Ugandan children. Through project partnerships and generous donors, Call to Care Uganda has taken on many projects, including providing clean, safe water to thousands of people, delivering mosquito nets to hundreds threatened by malaria, connecting schools here with schools in Africa through sponsorship programs and pen pal letter writing, and spearheading a children's center build project in the unreached district of, help me with this one, Kambera-Maido, Uganda. Martha's past experience in the corporate world as a professional photographer and as a mother of three helped prepare her for the challenges and rewards this important work in our global community. Martha and her team regularly host unique special events and also offer beautiful fair trade crafts made by artisans in Uganda to raise awareness. Call to Care Uganda looks forward to assisting the greatly impoverished children of Uganda with health and education initiatives for many years to come, and to rising the global consciousness here in the U.S. to help heal the world. Okay, Martha.
Yeah. So the first question we always ask our guests is, what made you start to do this? Tell us your journey.
Wow.
Or how did a mom from Madison wind up in Uganda?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the normal path. Well, it actually started with a dream. I had a dream.
A sleeping dream.
A sleeping
Okay.
dream, going to sleep.
Yeah.
I had a dream that I was, or not myself, but I had a dream that there was a woman and she was helping children, and they were very, very much in need and very far away. And then I woke up.
Wow.
And then I had the dream again, and I realized I've dreamt that before, and I didn't really know what it really meant. And I'm dreaming about taking care of kids, but would that be that unusual? I mean, I had children, I was a mother,
Right.
and so then I had the dream again, and that's when I realized that
Wow.
it was me. So I would just have the dream, it would come and go, it would sneak up on me when I was least expecting it, and then it would just go away.
Now, how many years did you have this dream for?
Well, I had it on and off for about 2 years, and I was living in Texas, and we moved here to Connecticut, and so did the dream. And I would, again, I would just get it here and there. It would sneak up on me, and then I started getting it regularly. At first it was once a month, and then it was once a week, and then it was coming nightly. And that's when I started saying, what does this mean, and what in the world does it have to do with me? And so I went and I actually talked to a friend of mine who happens to be a priest, and I asked her, I told her about what was happening, and I said, what do you think this is? She said, I have no idea. She said, have you ever prayed about it? And I said, oh, no, I hadn't. She said, well, I think that would be a good place to start. So that's what I did. I just kind of centered myself, my thoughts, where is this place, and what in the world does it have to do with me? And another few months went by, and I had the dream, and this time, though, there was an addendum at the end of it. At the end of the dream, my grandmother was there, and she reached out to me, and she handed me this little bark cloth wallet. And I jumped out of bed and I yelled, "It's Uganda!" I mean, I knew. And my husband said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The place where the children are, the place. It's Uganda." Because I knew through every fabric of my being that's where it was. Because when I was a little girl, about 8 years old, my grandmother really did give me that bark cloth wallet. It was a little wallet made out of bark, and it was from her best friend who had been a missionary nun in Uganda.
Wow. Talk about messages from the universe, and the angels and God. Wow, that's amazing.
So start to finish, 8 years now.
Wow.
Was the
from the first
very first dream to the aha moment.
They must have said,
like, oh my God, Martha.
God, 8 years.
Kind of like my angels said the way they were with me. Oh my God, is she ever going to get this?
That's cute.
But still, I think that I walked around, the next few days just saying, Uganda? I can't go to Uganda. I'm afraid. I don't want to. I don't want to go to Uganda even. And are you sure, really? Kind of thing. And then my daughter, she comes home from school and she said, "Mommy, there was an assembly today at school and they were singing and dancing." And I said, "Oh, wow, great. Where were they from?" She said, "They were from Africa." I said, "Africa? Where in Africa?" "Uganda." Oh, of course.
Tip number 1.
And then I went to the doctor's office and I pick up a magazine in the waiting room, bright red letters right on the cover, Uganda. And I go home and I turn on the television, and it's a show about children that were soldiers in Uganda. So it was on and on and on until finally I just said, okay, all right.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of courage to uproot yourself and do something like that. It really does. Wow.
It was definitely a tremendous leap of faith, getting on that plane and not knowing exactly where I was going, exactly who these people were I was with, or the
Well, how
ones
did
that I
that
was
all
meeting.
come about? How did the trip all come about?
Okay. Yeah, well, I knew that I didn't want to go by myself, so I reached out to my church to find out if they, knew of any other churches, perhaps, that had a relationship that had already been started with Uganda. And they did, indeed. It was in Stonington, and they had a trip that was planned. And they were going to be putting, they had put a couple of young men through school, and they were going there to see them graduate. And they were also starting a relationship with an orphanage. And I was like, tell me more about that. So I asked them if I could basically jump in their suitcase and come with them, and they said yes.
And you didn't know what you were going to do there? You didn't know anything about anything?
Did you?
I did not know much. I mean, I did as much research as I could before I went, but I really didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And, even when I got there, I don't think I could have ever been really totally, fully prepared for everything that I did see. I thought I had understood what poverty was. I had no idea. I had no idea. But even in all the hardships and all the challenges, the people there and the children, there was so much joy, and it was inspiring. It was truly, truly inspiring. And
so what were the living conditions like there?
well, most people don't have any kind of plumbing. So that means you don't have any water, and you usually have to walk a few miles each way to get to the nearest source.
A few miles, wow.
Can you imagine?
No.
And pit latrines are just a hole for your bathroom facilities.
So like a communal pit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
How sleeping in what, huts? What do they have? Huts?
They have mud huts. Yep, they have mud huts. They're mainly round, like a one big round room, and they are made out of mud, and they stay nice and cool. And they have a grass thatched roof. And they sleep on just a mat that's usually made out of some kind of grasses that have been woven together.
Wow.
So.
Now, what's the climate like there?
Well,
pretty much the same
equator
year-round?
goes right straight through Uganda, so that's actually very good for them because it gives them a constant growing season. So a lot of other African nations have a lot of problem with famine and starvation. Uganda has a lot of challenges, but not so much with the starvation, and it's because of that constant growing season.
What do they grow there? What do they plant?
Oh, so many fruits and vegetables. And,
Okay.
Matoki is bananas, and they have so many different kinds. I never knew there were so many kinds of
Me
bananas.
either.
They actually cooked some for me that tasted a lot like a starchy mashed potato,
Wow.
and they put
Like a
gravy on it.
plantain
Yeah.
type of
Wow.
thing?
Yeah, yeah. So, and lots of, papayas and just huge mango trees and coconuts and, lots of beans, and cassava is another root vegetable, lots of potatoes, and tea. Tea is one of their cash crops in Uganda.
Okay.
So they have tea fields everywhere. It's delicious.
Is there animals out there? Do they
Yeah.
slaughter animals to eat, or what?
They do.
Oh,
they
they
do.
do.
Cows and goats, chickens and pigs.
Tell them about the chicken.
The chicken.
The chicken that they gave you.
Oh, actually, we had several chickens given to us as honored guests. At one village, we had gone there to celebrate because we funded a well in their community. And at the end, they came up and they handed me a male and a female chicken. And they were alive. And so I just kind of tried to take them very calmly, like I do this every day. And I'm standing there, and so we put them into the van with us, and we were on our way to the next place, and one of the chickens laid an egg in the van. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So did you drive away and then go, hey, go out, live, go to the light, live. That's what I would have done.
It was an amazing journey. It was an amazing experience. That was my second trip. I've now been 3 times, and I'll be going over again this coming July. And we'll be taking a team of college students with us this time, and just help to show them how you can change the world. You can help. You can get involved. Even when it's a problem that seems like so big, how could I possibly make any kind of a difference if I am able to make a difference?
So what do you do there?
When I go, I now go to see, friends and colleagues that I work with now. We work with schools. We take, we do a lot of relationship building with schools here and schools there. And it really starts with something as simple as a pen pal letter. Just to kind of get to know other people, get outside of the bubble here,
Right.
and get to know something about somewhere else in the world. And both sides really enjoy that. So it starts with that, and then schools.
And what ages do you start with the pen pal?
We've done it pretty much middle school to high school on this side, and
Yeah.
on that side it's been primary school and secondary school. So it's kind of like primary school and high school there.
Now, did you need any special education to go and do this?
No.
No, anybody could do that. I mean,
Yes.
a lay person can go and do what you do.
Absolutely. No doubt about
You just have
it.
to believe
Listen to you.
Just, it's
and
just,
follow.
it's listening and following and listening and following and so much of what we've done. I mean, I didn't know anything about I didn't really know anything about Uganda or even where it was in the very beginning. You know, I had to research all that. I didn't know anything about drilling wells. I didn't know anything
So
about...
how did you get into the wells? I mean,
Well,
tell them the story about...
I think that with the water, it was just really, the need was just so very obvious. Water is a luxury there. I mean, it's just, it's awful. It's really awful. And when I came back after my first trip, I went to the Rotary Club in Madison, and I gave a presentation about water and the lack of it. I knew that that was something they were concerned about. And they basically said, thank you so much for coming. We have another project that's going on right now. Maybe we could be able to help you in the future. And then a few weeks later, they called up and they said, the other project fell through.
Oh, wow.
And that's when we worked together, and we drilled the first well. And it was in a village called Agulamato, and there were 800 people. And then from there, we ended up the next year doing 4 more. With the Guilford Rotary Club. So it was called To Uganda, which is my nonprofit, you know, partnering with the Rotary and also the Association of Women Business Leaders and a few churches and some individual sponsors. So we just, you know, kind of raised the money.
To go out and get the equipment and dig, right?
They drill it over there, so it was just really, yep.
Now, when you were here before this happened, did you have a job? Were you just a housewife? What was your profession? What were you doing before this? You started to go there.
Professional photographer.
Okay.
So that was definitely a handy tool to have in my tool belt when I was over there, because the pictures that I brought back helped to tell a story and helped to show not the sadness, not the pictures that you see sometimes,
Yeah, you do.
but the joy.
Exactly.
The joy.
Right.
And, you know, it's just, you know, it's kind of, I think of the Ugandan people as just kind of just being on the brink and just needing just a little push and just a little help. And I think that we have the abundance here. We certainly can do that.
So only being a photographer, and knowing nothing else, you followed your call from the universe and went over there.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So how does Call to Uganda heal outside the box?
Well, since I am not a doctor or a nurse or, you know, traditional healing kind of methods, I think that one of the ways we do it is by offering people an opportunity to volunteer, giving people a chance to help and to make a difference. That's very fulfilling, as much as it is, you know, a benefit to the people who are in need. That's one way. Providing water, that's an obvious one.
Because that was a big part of a woman's day, is going back and forth and getting water, wasn't it?
It is women's work in Uganda. The women gather the water, and if it is, you know, 5 miles to get to it, and you've got no shoes, you've had nothing to eat, it's blazing hot sun, and you've got this Poland Springs jug-sized bottle on your shoulders. That's what you do all day. You go and you come back, and it's not enough. And then you need to go and do it again. And with the girls, that's why they don't have any opportunity to ever go to school. They're spending their day gathering water. So and then there's also
that simple.
then there's the obvious health benefits. There's the, you know, you're not going to get the waterborne diseases. You're not going to get, you know, all of the sickness, and then you're not going to get the dehydration and the diarrhea that kills so many people there.
Right. So unnecessary.
And with the girls too, when they are traveling back and forth, they're at risk many times, and they're often attacked. So that's by men. So it's, you know, there's so many things. When you have that well and that source in your backyard, it changes everything. It changes so much. It helps the other communities around to see, wow, they've got water. Look the difference that's happening. And then they work harder at things. It helps them to farm. It helps them to get to work because the adults aren't sick either. And in each one of the communities, we've had a well committee form, and they elect elders and they elect people in the village itself, and they make sure that it's maintained and that it's for the sustainability of it. They don't ever want it to break down, and they collect a little bit of money from the people who live there and who drink from it, and they put it into an account in case something were to ever happen to the well. And that sounds very just logical, everyday, ordinary stuff for us, but there, they have never thought about anything further than getting through the day. So thinking about the future, I mean, walking with them during that it's really truly a privilege.
And they do have a little money there?
Little.
Where would they get money? I mean,
just from working, just doing little jobs that they do.
From making the crafts.
Or selling,
and people
selling
come
their
there?
fruits or vegetables at the market.
Is there a village? Is that a village there, or?
These are lots of different villages. Now we've just finished our 15th well. And so some of them have been in schools, some of them have been in villages, and when they're out in the village, the equivalent to that is, well, we think of going to the village, we think of going into town. When you're in Uganda and you go out to the village, you go out in the bush. And I mean out in the bush. long, bumpy rides that are on these dirt roads that you just...
And these people probably don't have cars, do they?
No. They're lucky if they have a bicycle.
So what do they have, horse and wagons, or do they?
No, mainly by foot or by bicycle.
So in the bush, is there vegetation there, trees and things like that? Yeah, there is? Animals, wild? So you take your chance, right?
Yeah.
What do the men do basically there? The women gather water and what, they cook and they...
The women do so much.
Yeah, I'll bet.
The women also gather the firewood. The women gather all the food. The women plant all the food. The women harvest the food.
Okay, so what do the men do?
Yeah, what do the men do?
What are the men doing during all this?
Yeah.
The men are mainly the hunters.
Okay, they can have that job.
That's all they do is hunt. That's it.
They do hunting, and there aren't. Everyone in Uganda doesn't live in the bush too. So there are a lot of there are businesses, and there are lots of the tea plantations and the banana plantations and those kinds of jobs. And also there's, in the cities, there's IT, there's information technology and just regular, computer-based businesses that we have here too. So
they travel to the city to do things like that and then go back to their mud hut at night?
Sometimes.
Wow. I'm trying to get a picture of, what it looks like,
Yeah.
to tell our viewers and so forth what it looks like.
It's really different all throughout the country. The country itself is about the size of Oregon, just to give you kind of a scale. And there are 32 million people living there.
In Uganda? Wow.
And 530,000 of them have HIV/AIDS.
Wow.
And between the number of people who have AIDS, the poverty, just all of the disease, war, and civil strife, all of these things have contributed to the 2 million orphans. And that's really what's called my heart. That's really my pull, is to help the kids.
Now, can people from the United States adopt any of these orphans, or do they pretty much like to keep them in their own country?
They really do like to keep them
like
there.
Haiti.
Yeah, it isn't something that's commonly done. I think the number is actually so low of the number of kids that were adopted out of Uganda. It's literally less than 50 a year. I think that
50 a year?
Yeah. It's not something that's, there's so much extended family and things like that it's just not something that's done. But it's not because there aren't so many orphans. It's just not.
Do they live, all these orphans, do they live together? Where do they live? In the community?
Sometimes they're taken in by family, aunties, uncles, that kind of thing. And sometimes they don't. And they just, or if they're lucky enough, they'll wind up in an orphanage. Or they are often street children. There are
Really?
no safety nets there. There's no child protective services.
Right.
There's nothing like that exists. If you're 2 years old and your mommy and daddy die, that's that.
So how are they lucky enough to get into an orphanage? How do they just happen to find their way to an orphanage someday? Or
maybe somebody heard about them or saw them. A lot of the orphanages are connected to churches, so they reach out to the communities. And
Wow.
they know, a lot of times they know, where the greatest need is.
They go in to rescue them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what kind of projects is Call to Care Uganda working on right now?
Right now, other than the water projects and the school sponsorships, I think our most ambitious project to date is a build project, and we are actually working with a non-government organization in Uganda called CACHO, and that stands for Kibera Maido, which is the location, child care organization. And it's going to be a children's center, and it's not going to be an orphanage or a school or a hospital, but it's going to have components of all three of those things. It's going to be a place, basically, where kids can come and go, but to get things like, if they're naked, something to wear, and if they're hungry, something to eat. We're going to have a little reading library there where the kids can look at books and read, and there's also going to be a treatment center. And at the treatment center, they'll be able to get treatment to things like malaria, which is like the common cold there, but deadly. And also, many of them are living with HIV/AIDS, so
I was going to ask you that. They
drugs.
do have that. And did they have drugs for them then?
They do, but a lot of times, just you can't get to them easily. So this will just be another branch of that will help within the community, and it'll really just help the community members help the children, lift the children up, and help the children to become successful.
Right.
So that's really, we're excited about it. We've been working on it for a couple of years now, and we are, right now at this point, we have 4 acres of land. It's completely fenced, the whole perimeter. There's a gate and a guardhouse at the front, which in Uganda means this place has a purpose. This means business.
Yeah.
There's a well, of course, there's a well.
Okay.
And we've also started some farming initiatives around the community, so to help them kind of get started with that. So it just made me think of something when I said well, is that I'm Martha Hoffman, and I have been Martha Hoffman for just about 20 years. We're about to celebrate our anniversary, but my maiden name is Wells.
Boy, talk about meant to be.
I know, I love that.
Unbelievable.
And I had no idea I would ever be doing anything like this.
Right.
I mean, it's totally changed my whole life, my whole direction, and my husband and my family have been so supportive. But this really took us all by surprise. This really came out of the blue.
You could have just turned your back on it. You could have.
I just couldn't, though.
I know.
think when it's a strong calling, I really don't think there's no way you can run away from it. It just kept following me everywhere I turned. That Uganda just kept popping up.
I wonder how many people out there get that kind of calling or some, vision or whatever to do something like that. I wonder. And also, this helps the people who do have it to know what it's all about, and maybe they can start doing what they're called to do too. This is excellent. The universe, spirit, God, creator leads you and guides you to what he wants you to do. And it's up to you to listen or not to listen, It's amazing.
Sometimes it takes 8 years.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Well, you were busy, Martha.
I think that when I think back about it, I don't think I would have been ready. I don't think I would have been. I needed to learn different things. I needed to become a mother. I needed to really learn how to be a mother. And now
Exactly.
there are.
When the student is ready, the teacher will come.
There are hundreds and hundreds of children now in Uganda that call me Mama Martha.
Aw.
Mama, and it's just a name that I wear just like a badge of something.
Honor.
That's
Honor.
nice.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's just,
yes.
it means so much to me to know that I've somehow, me, has made a difference in their lives.
That's awesome.
It's really quite amazing.
Do they have teachers out there to teach the children? Do they have like schools and
Yes.
stuff? Yeah, good.
They do. Some of the schools, of course, have one teacher to 250 kids.
Oh my God! So they really
So-
need teachers, huh?
They do. Teachers are, they love teachers to come.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about what is there spiritual beliefs out there? Is there a certain religion
Yeah.
that took over, or is it just
Well,
what do they do for that?
it's predominantly Christian.
So does it mean Catholic is running it, or
There's Catholic, but there's also Protestant, many Protestant.
Good.
The Anglican Church, they are colonized from England.
okay?
So there's also a pretty good percentage of Muslim. And then there's also a lot of, tribal religions too.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But it is predominantly Christian.
Okay, so they don't fight over that. Whoever does what believes what, it's okay, right?
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot of turmoil over different religious
There is?
beliefs. There is not.
There is not good.
Not as much, no.
That's good. I figured if they wanted to leave the tribal one and go to the other one, that they would have a problem, but they don't. That's good.
Well, I'm
they have
not
the freedom
quite
to-
sure.
Oh.
I mean, I would say that it would probably, if it's what your tribe believes,
Yeah.
I think straying from that would probably give you, you'd probably get some grief for doing that.
Okay,
but,
so the children follow that. Okay.
Yeah. And they're also, Uganda is surrounded by a lot of turmoil. Sudan is on the north. Democratic
right.
Republic of Congo is on the west. Rwanda is on the south. And Kenya and Tanzania are on the southern and east side. And 3 of those countries out of the 5 are on the State Department's do not travel list.
Wow.
Oh, great.
So, and that's been that way, but I've been going back and forth, and I'm still here to tell you about it.
Where do you
haven't had any
land?
problems.
Where do you land? Where's the plane? Where's the nearest? Where do you?
There is
Plane
one
come-
airport that receives international flights in Uganda, and it's in a place called Entebbe.
So that must be a small plane, right?
Oh no, it's a big one.
It's a big one. Okay.
It's a jet. It's I've all 3 times I've flown from Boston to Amsterdam and then Amsterdam to Entebbe, and it takes about 18 hours in the air. So it's a long. It's a
How
long
often
one.
do you go?
I've gone about every other year is the way it's worked out. I know that in time I can see that I'll be going more.
Really?
But, and I go for about 2.5 weeks at a clip.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as long as my family can do without me and I can do without them. So,
Right.
but
Do you want to talk to them a little about your buying trips and your the beads?
oh sure, yeah. We started working with artisans in the marketplace in Kampala mainly. That's the capital of Uganda, and the artisans will all bring their wares into the capital city. We've been selling these beads that are made out of paper.
They are.
Rolled
I love
paper.
those.
Boy, I felt them. I touched them. I thought they were beads.
Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah.
They're just made out of rolled paper, just recycled whatever. Magazine scraps, cereal boxes, whatever the ladies can get their
Amazing.
hands on. They're gorgeous.
They are. I would have never believed it.
And we sell them, and we sell a strand of them, and then it's basically equivalent to what it would cost to build a square foot of this children's center. So it's given people a real way to feel like they made a tangible difference,
Right.
especially in the
Sorry.
schools with the kids. It's a $10. It's a price point that they can afford, and they can know that I helped.
Exactly.
That was a foot. I funded a foot at this place, and so
that's nice.
it's been really good. So the beads, we have beautiful basketry and
Yeah,
wooden
really beautiful
carved
crafts.
items.
Wow.
And it's so neat getting to know the people who make them too, and hearing their stories when they write to us about how it's changed their lives. We feel like we're doing it on a very small scale. Just a
Because
little
you're not
bit.
giving them the handouts. They're actually earning, making a living
and that's
doing
what
this.
they want.
Exactly.
The dignity.
Exactly.
Nobody wants a handout.
How about the language? Do they speak English, or is there a language problem? What?
The national language is English.
Oh, it is?
Thank goodness, yes. But there
Oh.
are dozens of tribal dialects, and when I've gone out into the bush, I've many times not known what people are saying. But
They fast talkers?
yes, but usually there's always, someone will always translate for me. And in one of the at one of the well celebrations, I actually wanted to learn how to talk to them in the tribal dialect there, which was called Kumam. So I asked Chris, who is our Uganda chairman there, and my brother, I call him brother, he calls me sister. I said, this is what I want to say, how do I say it? And he sent it to me in an email. So on the plane ride over, I was practicing, and then I said out the words in front of him, and he corrected me on a few ways that I was saying things. And then I stood up and I said it in the villages.
Let's
and
hear
at
it.
first they
What did you
started
say?
to
Let's hear it.
laugh.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
They laughed at you
Come on,
first?
Martha.
I need my notes now. I haven't done it for a little while, but it
They
was
laughed?
basically, it was a prayer. It was basically saying, we give thanks for this water, and may it be here for many years to come, and feed you all and serve you all, and those kinds of things. And just as we celebrated together, but my words were very slow, and they were just laughing. They weren't laughing at me. They were just so happy that I tried.
Yeah.
That I met them where they were at.
Do you
And I
remember any
tried.
words to tell us at all?
Well, kulo is how you say well. Yoga is how you say hello. I mean, I know little bits and
Yoga.
pieces, but I'd have to look at my notes for the whole,
Yeah,
the whole
to put it
paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great though, and I look forward to continuing to do that.
So who works for this organization?
Well, we're all volunteers.
Okay.
I'm the president of the organization, and we have a board. The board of directors is 7 others besides myself, and they all work in different various parts: treasurer, school sponsorship, the craft area, secretary, those kinds of things.
Who got them together?
Basically me. It's people,
Really?
It's people that I've met and people that have shown interest and wanted to get involved. And then we also have subcommittees. So I'd say in total we're about 25, 30 volunteers.
Was it hard to convince the people? How hard was it to get them to do this?
Oh, no, it's not hard.
No, not at all?
No.
Good.
No, because they see what
People
we're doing.
wanna help.
They do. People want to help. People want to know how. How can I help? So many times you just write a check and you just send it somewhere and you don't know whether it got there, or there's maybe so much overhead that you don't know how much of that money actually, is going to help. But with our organization, I think the thing that's been really appealing is that sometimes we actually take physically over and hand it to the person who's the recipient. So
That must be a good feeling.
It is a good feeling.
Oh.
It is good. It is good.
Have you met anyone over there who's had dreams like you? Who's had felt that was, something like that happened to you, happened to them? Have you talked to anybody like that about
I
that?
haven't. I
You
haven't talked to anybody who had dreams like me.
Okay.
But I've heard a lot of really wonderful stories, and I think that the thing that we definitely all share is just the desire to help each other, and the desire to just push on, just press on, and keep moving forward towards being better, or being healthier, or being stronger, or healing, really. So
You want to share with us a story or two that you said was heartwarming?
I think one of the things that's happened within our organization that really was pretty amazing was the story of a woman named Jonas. I went out to this school that was way out on the Congolese border, and the parents all came to meet the visitors along with the students, because it was the first time Americans had ever been there. And all the parents were waiting in line, and they were shaking our hands. And when I went up and I shook this one woman's hand, her arms were in her wrap like this. And then when I reached for her, I realized she didn't have a hand.
Mm.
And then after the program, and we were sitting outside eating, I realized there was another mother that was feeding her, and she didn't have either one of her arms. And I said, curiosity got the best of me, and I said to the headmaster, what happened? And he said that her husband had a successful shop, and they were closing one night down in the town, and thieves came, and they murdered him right in front of her. And then she put up her arms to protect herself, and both of them were chopped off. And by the grace of God, a motorcycle came, and the thieves fled and left her for dead, but she didn't die. And he said that, so we're trying to help her. She has 6 children, and she can't even care for herself.
Oh, wow.
So they were a school that were trying to help. So, I just basically, it was one of those stories that's just so overwhelming. It's so overwhelmingly awful.
Yes.
You don't really know exactly what to do. But I went down and I sat down next to her, and I just put my arm around her, and I just said, hang on, Mama. Don't give up.
Maybe someday you find someone who can get her the artificial arms, you think? I mean, would that work for her?
Oh, the story continues.
Yes, there's another part to the story.
Oh.
So I came back, and it was about, a couple months later, a woman said, I was wondering if you could meet me down at Starbucks. I'd like to buy you a cup of coffee and just pick your brain. I want to start a nonprofit. I said, sure. So I went down, and I said, so what do you want to do? She said, well, I want to do something in the healthcare arena in Asia. I said, oh, like what? She said, I want to help people get prosthetic limbs. And I said, really?
Wow.
Well, I don't know how to get you started in Asia, but I have got to tell you about this woman I met in Uganda.
Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Wow.
And she said, tell me more. Now, I hadn't taken a photograph of this woman. I just didn't feel comfortable that was the right thing to do. So I wrote to the man who was the headmaster, and I said, do you have a photo? Please give me her first and last name, her children's names and ages, and medical records. When we got things going, and the woman's name was Kathy Wargo, and she worked with a local North Haven company here called Hanger Prosthetics, which is one of the leading in the industry. And she called me up. It was January when we talked. It was in December when she called up and said, I've got the hands. And so Call to Care Uganda basically funded Jonas and a traveling companion to come over here. We didn't know whether she was going to need surgery. We didn't know any of these things. The medical records were nothing like ours, you know.
Right.
And but she didn't need any of it, and she learned she got the prosthetic limbs, and she learned how to use them, and was feeding herself, dressing herself, drinking from a cup, and doing all of the things that she needed to do before she went back. And then I got to go there, and I got to see her in her village. And it was just amazing. It was just amazing. And she said, but if it wasn't raining, I would take you out to and show you my harvest. She's farming.
Wow.
I mean, she's just been giving back her life.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, this woman comes into your life and does this. I mean, people don't think that, the universe, creator, whatever you want to call, doesn't give you direction and help you to find ways and do things, and I don't know. It's all there. You just have to open your mind
your heart,
and your heart. Exactly.
Your mind, and you just say, okay, where do you want me to go?
Exactly.
What do you want me to do?
Exactly.
It all just starts happening.
That's so true. That's so true. People shouldn't be afraid. They should just do what you said, and if somebody has that desire, follow the dream and see what happens. But you got to have the faith, right?
Yeah, you do.
When you go out there,
How did you keep the faith?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
How did you keep the faith throughout the whole thing?
You mean like now?
When you saw everything the way it was.
I mean, it was just, I would think at the beginning it was just so overwhelming, and were there people that were kind of against
Oh yeah,
what you were doing?
It was overwhelmingly sad. I did have a lot of people
good question, yeah.
say to me, what are you doing? Are you crazy? What do you mean you're going over there? You're a mother. You're leaving your kids? That's selfish. I mean, I heard so many things that I just said, wow, but I was, the pull was so strong for me. I don't think anything would have been able to stop me. And when I got there, it was sad, but I felt like everything that I was seeing was going before my eyes for a reason. And and it took me a little while to process it, to figure out what exactly I could do. But I knew the first thing I could do was just share it with other people and figure out together together, how we can help and how we can do different things.
Now, were they receptive there? Was the government receptive over there when you got there? And what did you do? Get in touch? How do you even?
Yeah, how do you go about
How do you go about
this?
it?
Well, the government really isn't really too involved in what I'm doing when I'm there. We're still, very small, and I basically went on the first trip, I just went wherever they took me, wherever the other people
Those
who had
two
been
ladies.
there. Yeah, and everybody who I met is very, very involved with our organization now. I met good people. And people that I could trust, and people that I call friends, people that I trust with my life. And I felt very, very fortunate to be able to have that kind of experience at the get-go, because otherwise I don't think any of this other stuff could have happened.
Yeah.
All of the wells and the children's center and the school projects and the malaria prevention and just everything that we've done. I don't think that would have ever been able to happen if I wasn't fortunate enough to meet the people that I met in the very beginning.
Now, who are the people that are building the wells? Are they people from the United States, or are there companies over there that you hire to build these wells?
The first company that we worked with for the first 5 wells was an Italian-based humanitarian organization, but the company that we're working with right now is a Ugandan drilling company, and I'm really
Good.
happy about that.
Awesome.
When you're there, where do you stay? Is there hotels for you, or do you sleep in a mud hut, or what?
She's smiling sheepishly.
I have slept in a hut, but mainly we stay in guest houses, they're called, and they're just kind of small. Just think of it kind of like a bed and breakfast type of situation. It's usually a guest house, and there's different rooms, and then a bathroom.
Are you sleeping with the net over you at night?
Absolutely.
Lots of bugs out
So
there.
everyone in Uganda sleeps with a net over them, or they should.
Well, they should. They should. And even though, we take, anybody who I go over there with, you start taking the malaria prevention medication a couple days before you go. You take one every day while you're there, and then you take one for another 7 to 10 days when you get back. And you slather yourself
With bug spray.
with bug spray, and it's military grade bug spray. And so even with all that armor, somebody came back last time with
malaria.
Wow.
That is so scary.
Yeah,
Now, what do these kids do that don't have these nets? How do they protect themselves?
they don't. And I've been in clinics that there's a nurse and she's holding a child who's delirious from fever and malaria, and she turns her attention to another one that's brought in, and while she's caring for the one that just got brought in, this one dies. And that happens every 20 minutes.
Wow.
And it's never stopped.
Wow. My God, amazing.
But I think that just raising awareness, and I thank you for letting me do that. And helping people get involved. Helping schools. A lot of schools will say, "How much is a mosquito net?" $7.50. Really? We want to send some nets, and that can go over an entire family, and save them. So it's things like that. There's lots of ways that you can get involved.
Yeah. Now, do you travel around to schools?
Yep.
Sharing your message?
Yep. I'm always looking for new schools to visit. So if there's anybody who's viewing who thinks that this would be a good program to connect their school with, I think that kids helping kids, I think there's something really, really great about that.
Yeah,
Right.
there is. There is. What are some of the things they can do?
Well, I think the pen pal letters is a great place to start.
Right.
A lot of times too, they'll have fundraisers, laser tag or kickball or shooting baskets, nets for nets, things like that. They come up with good ideas.
Right.
Some of the schools have sold the necklaces. But I think really the main thing is just really learning about each other, and then it just goes from there. We had one school that sent over a bunch of deflated, soccer balls.
Oh.
The kids loved them. you know, and it's just something that like that. It can be something that's so simple or easy, but it's something that just means so much to a child that thinks nobody even knows I'm alive.
Right.
You know.
Today's youth are more aware of things like this, and when they're good, they're very good, and they really do help, and they really get involved,
Yeah.
and they take
do.
it to
They
heart.
care.
They really care, you know.
Yeah.
Like when we were young, I mean, whoever did anything like that, you know, we didn't know enough, but today they do, and it's so great.
That is good.
It's so really great. We can. Why don't we show the picture of your? You have a picture with us, and what is this a picture of?
This is a picture at the Children's Center. All of these kids that are in this picture will all be kids that will go there. They're standing around a mango tree, and right behind that mango tree.
All right, we need to have the camera on it. There we go. Okay.
Right behind the mango tree is where the well is that we drilled. And I was actually walking down to where the old water source was, and I turned around and they were all there watching me, and I waved to them and they waved back to me, and I snapped a shot, and that's what it is.
That is a great picture.
Thank you.
That's really nice. Yeah.
And there's just, I mean, there's so much joy and there's so much excitement about this place, because this place is really a safe haven for so many kids.
Really?
It will be. It's kind of a beacon of light in their community.
So are they finding it more and more? Coming, you know, finding out more and more? Are they coming from different places?
Yep,
to come
just,
there?
just from all around. And as we start to break ground, probably, I'm hoping by Christmas, we'll be able to start, constructing the first of the buildings.
Wow.
That's exciting.
It is.
And these buildings, what are you making buildings for? What do you want to have there?
The first part we'll build will be the toilets, and they're going to be flush toilets, not pit latrines, but flush toilets.
Great.
Much healthier situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll build the kitchen and the dining hall, the main dining hall, and the main hall. And then from there we'll build the treatment center.
So this is basically going to be a community center.
This is the community center, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's really great.
And they'll have farming that'll be on there, and they'll be able to
And will
grow
all the
their
families
own
be able
food.
to like rent plots, a little piece of land there?
They'll all be involved in being a part of it and sustaining it. Call to Care Uganda is very much involved in getting it going and funding and helping with the build of it. But then it's really theirs. It's not ours.
Right.
It's not. We're not interested in being owners of something. This is
Right.
something that we want to be, totally owned by the community where it serves.
That's
So
really.
That's great.
It is. Like that old saying, you give a man a loaf of bread and he eats for a week, but you teach him how to make the bread and he eats for a
That's right.
lifetime, and that's what you all are doing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Thank
What's
you.
the best way to get more information about the organization?
I'd say the best way is to go to our website, which
Okay.
is www.calltocareuganda.org.
Okay, we're going to give that at the end of the show. That would be the best way?
I'd say that's the best way, because that really gives all the information of all the different kinds of things like I've been talking about. And then, of course, you can always get in touch with me directly, or through email or by phone.
Okay.
So
And we have the contact information at the end too?
Yeah.
Phone numbers and stuff?
We have all that on there, yeah. And so the people and the youths and adults and so forth, how can they get involved? In helping out? What would you like them to? What do you need?
Okay.
Okay.
What do you need, Sue?
What do you need?
I think one of the best things is for people to get involved and volunteer. And they can volunteer getting involved with our craft area, or they can get involved with, helping out at the schools and with school connections, or, different water projects. I think that just getting involved and realizing that they can, they can make a difference. And a lot of times it's moms and dads with their kids, so it's something that you can even do together.
That's a nice family thing to do.
It is really nice. So, and on the website you can find out about how to do that and the kinds of things we do, and then also, sponsorship, helping in the different projects, and, saying I want to help drill a well and doing it.
Wow.
Can you sponsor children? sponsor children or a child?
Well, you know what? You can. We haven't really done a program like that. We found that sponsoring the whole school was the better way of doing it rather than just an individual child. And there were reasons too. Sometimes if one child is being singled out and given preferential treatment and another child isn't, it can cause problems for them.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. So that's why we really kind of adopted more of an overall school sponsorship.
Right.
But, you know, I've had groups say, you know, how much is it to drill a well? And the answer is about $7,500. That's not a whole lot when you consider it's going to serve 800 people for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good investment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is there any last things you'd like to leave our audience with? Any last thoughts or anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, I guess I'd just like to say that, you know, if I can do this, anybody can. And if there are things that have been kind of gnawing at your heart, maybe waking you up in your dreams, listen to it and follow it, you know, and don't be afraid, because each step is going to be put there for you.
Okay.
I promise.
Very good. All right, well,
Martha.
we're going to give the contact information for you right now. The first thing, to contact information is Martha Hoffman, call To Uganda. The phone number is 203-245-3932, and the email address is info at calltocareuganda.org. And for more information, you can visit her website, which is www.calltocareuganda.org. And to learn more information about this show or any of our past shows, please contact us at healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com. Or to reach me, Rosemary Lachance, you can call 203-627-7966 or visit my website at www.rosemarylachance.com. And for Jayne Power, her phone is 860-664-0174, or email Jayne at jaynepower@hotmail.com. We were also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box, and you can go there and you can make remarks and you can have conversations and you could leave messages for us and everything. So please visit us there. The story, what I'm going to leave you with tonight, the quote, is something different. It's called The Starfish Story. Once upon a time, there was a wise man that used to go to the ocean to do his writing. He had a habit of walking on the beach before he began his work. One day, as he was walking along the shore, he looked down the beach and saw a human figure moving like a dancer. He smiled to himself at the thought of someone who would dance to the day, and so he walked faster to catch up. As he got closer, he noticed that the figure was that of a young man, and that what he was doing was not dancing at all. The young man was reaching down to the shore, picking up small objects and throwing them into the ocean. He came closer still, and he called out, "Good morning. May I ask you what it is that you're doing?" The young man paused, looked up, and replied, "Throwing starfish into the ocean." "I must ask then, why are you throwing starfish into the ocean?" asked the somewhat startled wise man. To this, the young man replied, "The sun is up, and the tide's going out. And if I don't throw them in, they'll die." Upon hearing this, the man commented, "But young man, do you not realize that there are miles and miles of beach, and there are starfish all along every mile? You can't possibly make a difference." At this, the young man bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it into the ocean. As it met the water, he said, "I made a difference to that one." Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful to hear this
pleasure.
story.
Thanks for making a difference.
I am still in awe. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, well, we're going to say good night. Good
Have a
night
good
now.
one.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Good job, Rosie.